Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's meeting about communication during an emergency. If you're familiar with Zoom, you'll understand that it's helpful to mute yourself when you're not talking. And we have a whole section at the end for questions. Feel free to pile in as you need be, but there's a ability to just put a question in the chat and we'll collect them and talk about them at the end probably. So this evening's meeting, as I said, is about communications during an emergency. It's about this time of year, Portola Valley and other organizations get together and try to have a safety day or communications day, but given the COVID situation, particularly this week, it's on Zoom, so we're gonna do the best we can. Tonight's meeting is hosted by the Woodside Portola Valley CERT, Portola Valley EPC, Woodside EPC, and the Woodside Fire Protection District. We really appreciate everybody's support here. Introduce a few people in just a moment. As you all know, we serve this area, the Woodside Fire Protection District, from Woodside to Portola Valley, Emerald Hills, Ladera, Las Trancas, Skyline, and Vista Verde. So the agenda, it's a pretty tight agenda. It won't take us probably 35, 40 minutes to get through it, but we're going to introduce some of the organizations that are involved in emergency management here in the area. We're going to talk about why communications matter, why it's important. During an emergency, what happens? We've got some very high quality, award-winning video to show you tonight. And we'll talk about the Portola Valley AM radio, and then more about the CERT radio network and how you can get involved and participate, and then things you do to prepare. Like I said, please mute if you would until you want to say something, and just submit your questions via the chat. Okay. So joining us tonight are a lot of people from these various organizations that I've mentioned, and maybe more from the various committees, but I just want to call out a few. So it's Lena Brown, she's here from the Woodside Fire Protection, Chip Swan and Mark Donlan, both with WPV-CERT, as well as the Woodside EPC, and Doug Keaston. Doug, I don't know if you're online, I can't see who's on and off, but Doug is the liaison between Woodside and Portola Valley EPCs. It's great to have that two-way communication. And
I am here, Ray. Thank you.
Oh, hey, great, Doug. Thanks for joining. And Portola Valley EPC, Chris Roney is the chair. Dr. Jerry Sheffrin runs the medical subcommittee. I run the communication subcommittee. Dale Fow is on the wildfire preparedness committee. Pretty tough job the last couple of years. And Mark Burkow is also communications. We have a pretty active ham radio network here as well. Joining us tonight from the San Mateo Sheriff is Sergeant Hector Acosta. I heard him on earlier. Thank you for joining us tonight on such short notice. Your
Thanks
other
for having me.
Yeah, good to have you, sir. And it was, I think it was like 4 this morning. I got the email that you were going to join, so I'm glad we all got that squared away. And also from the Portola Valley Police Commissioner, who oversees a lot of the crime management and other things around the Portola Valley, is Gary Nielsen, and he attends the the Portola Valley EPC meetings as well. So we have a pretty comprehensive group of folks. Does anybody that I've listed want to make a comment before we jump right into the program? Okay, let's do that. Let's go to the program. Chip, this is yours. Chip, you're on mute, I think.
Yes, I sure was.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Why do communications matter? Well, things are going wrong. Something has happened. There's an earthquake. There's a major airplane crash, or whatever has happened, and you need to respond to it. It's very possible that our first responders are overwhelmed. We have limited resources, and perhaps communications, normal cell phone service can be down, and you need to be able to get information to the right people so that we can help people that are in trouble now. The sooner that you can get to someone who's in trouble, the less likely that they're going to be hurt long-term or die, or the less likely that a structure will burn down if you can put a fire out quickly and so forth. So getting information, passing it back and forth quickly is a very key type of thing. You cannot make a decision without having good information. it's quite true that, well, in fact, let me pull up a couple of notes here. So we have 3 fire stations, just to put this in perspective. We have 3 fire stations. And after an earthquake, if you have more than 3 fires going, well, the most you can allocate is 1 to each, and then you're just out of teams that you can send to these incidents. So what do you do next? And by the way, radio could be down, all the towers could be down, everything could have failed. You need to be ready to run and know where to go to say, hey, this place over here is burning, somebody come and help us. But most likely the thing that will be up is going to be the radio systems, because they're self-powered, they talk to each other. You don't need a lot of infrastructure for the radios to work. And so that's why we focus on having a team of people and a skill set distributed through the community where radio is an available tool. And believe me, it has happened many times in the past that all the other systems of communication have failed, and hams picked up radios, and people like CERTs picked up their handheld radios, and instantly they were able to talk to people and start responding. And so we know that this is true, that having people who know how to use these things is very, very useful, especially in emergencies. And that's why we're here today. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks, Chip.
You bet.
All right, Mark, you're up, bud.
Okay, so as Chip mentioned, emergency communications is a very important tool, and we're going to watch a video here that's a brief video which is going to show how we use a two-way radio to stay in touch when perhaps we have a major incident and the regular communication systems are not available. So let's roll the video. All right, so we just had a major earthquake, and I went and checked on my family, checked on the house, everything's okay. I grabbed my CERT backpack, and I'm gonna go ahead and get my radio out and get it turned on. So here's my radio, and here's a lithium battery pack, which I'll go ahead and connect to the radio. I leave that disconnected so it doesn't drain when it's in storage. I'll go ahead and turn on the radio and make sure I'm on the CERT repeater channel. And also I carry with me a spare battery, and this one is a AA pack. So if I ever need to have a fresh battery pack and I'm not able to charge the lithium, I can just use regular AA batteries, or in this case, the lithium non-rechargeable AA batteries are great for long-term storage. So I'm gonna go ahead and head down to the staging area right now.
Attention WPV-CERT members, the mounted patrol grounds have been badly damaged. The new Woodside branch staging location will be at the Woodside Village Church, across from Woodside Elementary. Portola Valley branch staging location is the town center in Portola Valley.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you can help, but there's a house on fire down the street. We tried calling 911, but the phones are down.
Okay, I can try to send a message to the command post and they can get it relayed on. What was the address you said?
It's near the intersection of Jones and Maple, and it's beginning to spread fast.
Jones and Maple. Okay, thank you. Command post, team 1.
Team 1, go ahead.
Yes, I have a report of a rapidly spreading house fire at the intersection of Jones and Maple.
Command post copies. Spreading house fire at the intersection of Jones and Maple.
Okay, so as we just saw in that little video, having a two-way radio can be a very valuable tool when we lose our regular communication methods like cellular phones, landlines, internet access, and text messaging. Ideally, we'd like to have all of our CERT members have a radio, and we've made it very easy to purchase one. If you go to our website, WPV-CERT.org, there is a link to purchase a radio that's been pre-programmed, and you do not need to be an amateur radio operator. There's no tests that you have to take. You just purchase the radio and purchase a license through the FCC, and then you can use the radio. And we're going to be offering training videos on YouTube so that you can understand how to use the radio and practice using the radio. as well as offering monthly nets, which is an opportunity to talk to other CERT members over the radio and practice using the radio. Another important reason why you might want to have a radio is if in the upcoming power safety shutoffs, you know that the fire district in many areas, people lost all communication in that outage, and having this two-way radio would enable you to communicate with other CERT members and pass important messages should that be necessary. So thanks very much for watching.
Okay, continue.
Great, thank you. So as I mentioned there, we have a WPV-CERT two-way radio network, which consists of various repeaters, one in Portola Valley and one in Woodside. Both of these have very good coverage of our fire district. It's not particularly easy to have really good coverage because we have so many rolling hills and other topology issues, but it's pretty good coverage. And this is a radio network that's based on the GMRS frequencies and GMRS repeaters. And we're really excited to be able to offer radios to purchase, which we'll go into a little bit more in the next slide. So this complicated diagram shows how we've spent a lot of time to make sure that we have very resilient communications and integrating all the way down to our CERT members and our CERT division to be able to send messages and communicate using radio technologies between all the key players in an emergency. So at the very top, we have the county OES box. And the county OES is the Office of Emergency Services. The Sheriff's Department has what is called the Auxiliary Communications Service Group. It's part of the Sheriff's Department. They're amateur radio, ham radio volunteers who will be manning a radio at the county OES facilities and are able to pass messages, critical messages to the county's emergency operations center and dispatch for fire and sheriff resources and other key responder resources. So in this diagram, we're just kind of showing how the different radio technologies are used to communicate. So at the top, we have the county OES, which is called the area EOC. And amateur radio operators can communicate with the county's OES group through amateur radio. And as we go down in this diagram, we have the two town emergency operations centers, the Woodside EOC and the Portola Valley EOC. A little bit further down, we have the green boxes, and that's our 3 CERT command posts. And we've been working on developing 3 primary CERT branches, and that's the Woodside, Portola Valley, and Skyline branches. And each one of those branches would be operating their own command post. And then under that, we have our CERT divisions, our CERT members, and CERT teams. So for example, in that video that we showed, a CERT member was able to communicate with our CERT command post, and then the command post could pass that message either directly through amateur radio to the county, or if the town's EOCs were operational, then in that case, the message would get passed from the CERT command post to the EOC, and then the EOC would pass it to the county. So we have a lot of different technologies in use here in this diagram, but it generally just shows that we have a pretty good understanding of how emergency messages can be passed using two-way radios in a major incident where we just don't have our regular communications capabilities.
Okay, next.
Next slide. So as I mentioned, we have 3 current CERT branches, and the command post and the staging locations for those are, for Woodside, it's the Mounted Patrol Grounds. For our Skyline branch, it would be the Connex box, which is located at the intersection of Highway 84 and Skyline. And then in Portola Valley, it's the Portola Valley Town Center. And then also on this map, we show the 2 town emergency operations centers at the Woodside Town Center and the Portola Valley Town Center. So really what this is all about is staying in communications when we don't have our regular ways of communicating. And so we've worked for quite a while to build our network so that we have the infrastructure in place to maintain communications. And now we're happy to provide a radio that all of our CERT members can purchase. And it's a pre-programmed radio. You do not need to be an amateur radio operator, so there's no tests that you need to take. And you just purchase the radio and it's ready to use. You do need to purchase a $70 GMRS license through the FCC. It's valid for 10 years and it covers both yourself and all of your family members. So this is a way using this radio to stay in touch during an emergency, understand what's happening, and share critical information with your neighbors and other CERT members. And so we'd really encourage you to consider purchasing it. And I do want to mention that our current offering right now is specific to CERT members. This is not a general purchase item for anybody, but if you have taken the CERT training, then this is a radio you can go ahead and purchase now, and we really encourage you to do so.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mark. Another method we have for communicating with the citizens in our district is an AM radio. Frequency is 1680 AM radio. It's located in Portola Valley, but it broadcasts pretty much all the way from Pony Tracks to Emerald Hills to way north of Woodside, even further north than there. It runs a 7x24 message, it's pre-recorded. And these messages give you general information about how to be prepared, where to go, and so forth. But during an event, such as we had a couple of years ago with the PG&E blackouts for the fire protection they were implementing, we would update those messages with those patterns and shutdowns and what was going on. So it can be either pre-recorded or live, and it runs 24/7. A lot of people don't have an AM radio in their house. They all have FM, stereos and what have you. A lot of those do have AM, but most all cars have an AM radio. So if you don't have one handy, you can always go to your car and listen. So we have a little demonstration here. One of the means by which the town communicates with its citizens is through AM radio. We have here just a basic AM radio that you could get on Amazon or anywhere else for that matter. And I'm just going to turn it on and dial up our station. Our station is on 1680. So turn the volume up where the messages are running all the time.
Just a short list of what you can do to prepare. For additional tips and planning tools, please visit smcready.org.
So this message plays 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And should an emergency occur, such as last year when we had the fires and we needed, and PG&E was shutting down power and so forth, we will update those messages. Anyway, this is available in Portola Valley, all over Portola Valley. In fact, all over the Woodside Fire Protection District, it can generally be heard. If you don't have a portable AM radio, your car will probably have an AM radio. 99. So just to illustrate an AM radio in the car, here we're in my car with the main panel. Hit the radio button, it's set to something else. I can go to my radio, AM 1680. There it is. Portola Valley, AM radio.
This message on the Portola Valley Emergency AM radio station, WRFT 749, broadcasting on 1680 kilohertz.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Selena, I think you're up next.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to say it's really amazing to see so many familiar names and some faces on here. So thanks so much for all the residents and advocates who've participated tonight. We really appreciate it. And a great big thank you to the radio group for putting this on. I'm going to talk briefly about exactly WPV-CERT and WPV-Ready for those of you that might not be aware fully of what that is. I'm going to go over our org chart so you can kind of have a visual of it, and then I'll discuss how you can get ready, how that entails making a plan, some items that we have available for purchase through our store online, and how you can get more involved in just emergency preparedness in your neighborhood. So as you can see here, our original program when it was first established was labeled CERP. It is still CERP, but we have now we now have two branches off of it. So we have a preparedness side, which is the WPV-Ready, and we have WPV-CERT, which is our response side. So the whole idea is to make sure that all our residents on an individual and community level are prepared as best as possible. And we do that through the WPV-Ready side by providing training and public outreach and providing things that they can purchase online. And then after a disaster might occur, we have WPV-CERT, where residents have been trained and they can get together in an organized fashion and then respond to help each other. Like Chip mentioned before, in the fire district, we are 32 square miles and we are 3 fire stations. If we had a first alarm fire, that would require 5 fire engines, which we do not even have in district. So you can only imagine why we stress to our residents how important it is that you prepare in advance for any type of emergency. And this whole idea tonight with communications, you have to be aware that that you cannot depend on any one thing to work after a disaster. And so you have to have multiple plans. And your plans may not, you may not be able to put any plans in place afterwards, but it's the idea that you sat down and thought about everything that could happen that will actually make you more resilient afterwards. So that's why we train our residents. We train them to take CERT. We train them on a more basic level in the WPV-Ready side. Not a lot of people can sometimes commit to a whole CERT class because it is a lot of hours of commitment, but we do offer very basic courses on how to prepare yourself. And so tonight is a great event because it's about communications, and we're communicating to you that you have to be able to communicate to your family. So with this org chart, you can see at the top there, we have our training and certification that goes directly under CERP. And then on the response side, like the map you saw a little bit earlier, we have our CERT branches that drop down. And then within those, they have their own command systems. And then the CERT teams will communicate up that chain. And then on the WPV-Ready side, you can see how they would assist possibly with branch command after a disaster, if they do have that level of organization, also known as divisions or some blocks. There are different names depending on where you are within our community, but they're all doing the same thing. Okay, so we can go on to the next slide. What I really want to convey to you guys, aside from what we've already heard, and oh, before I even go any further, what we didn't mention to you was SMC Alert. And I'm sure all of you guys are signed up for SMC Alert on here, but I cannot do a presentation or speak to a group without mentioning SMC Alert. And if you don't know about SMC Alert, that is our main way of pushing out emergency notifications to our residents. So if you go to smcalert.org, I believe it is, or is it .gov, Chipple?
Sorry, that's smcalert.info.
Info, shoot.
Hey,
It's been a while since
right after this meeting. Go.
And if you sign up on there, they'll push out information via text message or email, and you can sign up for other areas. So if you have family members that are in say Belmont or Pescadero, and you want to make sure that you stay on top of receiving emergency notifications, you can do that through signing up on SMC Alert. Thanks, Lori. I just saw that. Push it out. Thank you on the chat. So when you're making a plan, when you want to get ready, obviously you need to collect information. What kind of information are you going to collect? Well, if you go down, there's that website right there at the bottom of that slide. It's basically a fillable form that you can do on the FEMA website for Ready. But what I want to tell you is you need to start thinking now about how you're going to communicate with your family after a disaster, whether it's having somebody that's out of state, whether you guys, if all communication is down and you have a backup plan of, okay, if communications are down, we are going to meet at this location. Or if I have to evacuate my home, I'm going to tie this handkerchief on the fence so my family members know that I've evacuated. You need to make sure that you all are aware of the emergencies you may encounter and how you would respond appropriately. So you collect all the information, so healthcare provider information, school information if you have children, maybe if you're taking care of older adults, medical information is very important, and especially if you have anybody in your household that has special needs. Then you share it with all of your family members. Maybe you also share it with a couple of your neighbors who look out for when you're not home. And you want to make sure that everybody is aware of the plan. And lastly, you have to practice it, because like anything else, practice makes it perfect. And if you update it annually, you can revisit it. There are things, people may move out, people may move in. Maybe now you have pets that you didn't have before. So it's always good to update it annually and sit down with your family and just have that general discussion. We've been in our homes for a very long time now and been given the opportunity to have a lot more conversations with the people that we live with. So might as well take advantage of this, this time. You can go ahead and move forward. All right, so if you haven't purchased one already, we are selling customized family first aid kits, as well as emergency water containers, 5-gallon jugs, and radios. Now, due unfortunately to COVID-19, we had to shut down our store because we just couldn't accept any more orders, because we couldn't connect the people to the items. So we still have a lot of people that haven't been able to pick up their kits or water containers. So don't think that we've forgotten about you. We absolutely have not. But we just don't want to put your safety or our safety at risk. So just know that, we still are aware we have the items, but if you want to purchase them, we have a contingency plan for opening up our store. Right now, you can, though, purchase a radio if you like on the website there. And we plan on adding more and more items as we go and offering these items all year round. So if you want more information on any of these items, you can go straight to the website and it'll tell you exactly what's in the first aid kits, and we provide training too that goes along with these items. All right, so what can I say to you guys? Get involved. There's so many different ways you can get involved in emergency preparedness. If all you can commit to is just saying, hey, I don't mind going to, the farmer's market and spreading the word about SMC alert, or talking to your neighbors, or maybe all you can do is talk to, walk outside and, shout over the fence to your neighbor. How are you guys doing, during this current pandemic? How are you handling things? The idea is we all work together so that we can get through this. And the way I want you guys to help us out is by going to one of these websites. If you haven't already, signing up for some classes. We started going virtual with our training sessions. We aren't virtual yet with our CERT training, but we're trying to move forward on that. But we do have a basics of personal neighborhood preparedness class put online, as well as a fire resiliency course. So especially with fire season and 4th of July coming up, please, I just want to give you guys a heads up. I'm sure you are all aware that we are hearing fireworks more than ever right now, and they are illegal in our fire district, even the safe and sane ones. So I just had to put that little PSA out there. I know you guys are all looking out for us, but all I can say is please get involved, go to the websites. My contact information is on there, and thanks again to all of the people that participated tonight.
Thank you, Selena. So we're rounding the bend here and coming across the finish line. Just to summarize, communications are really important during an emergency, but more importantly, it's being prepared, and that's what we really want to emphasize. And there's a lot of resources in town. There's a lot of resources on the web. Anybody, any of the volunteers that are on the event tonight could point you in certain places, what have you. But being prepared is really critical and important. But just a quick summary, CERT does maintain this radio network, and being trained up for it is very helpful. Having a radio, if the internet, the telephone, if SMC alert goes down, for example, which is a primary source of information, it's really, really good to be able to communicate two-way. In the one-way area, we have the AM radio, which we update as best we can during an emergency. We do that via the internet or a little sneaker net with a USB stick, and we can just put it in the radio and off we go. Being prepared matters a whole lot. So your go bag with water, meds, information, flashlights, a radio, two-way radio, what have you. Think about it, prepare it, as Selena said, update it annually. Our lives change, and sometimes that data you put in there a year ago will be dated. Rather than just put a whole bunch of websites on here, there's just one main website, WPV-CERT.org. To go there, you can also go to the website in your towns. Each have an emergency preparedness committee that have regular meetings monthly. It'd be great to see you there. Speaking for the Portola Valley, we usually have a full room of people. I think the committee's 9, but usually there's close to 20 people there, including officials from fire and other areas in the group. So it's a great way to meet the people who might be in a role to assist, but also people who are training up and staying alert on all this stuff. So hope to see you at one of those coming up. So this is the same folks that started. There may be some more committee members or members of the sheriff's office or whomever who joined us. I can't tell from where I sit, but now's your time for questions. If you have any, I'm going to let Selena direct or someone else, because like I say, I can't see the questions based on the way I'm set up. So thank you all very much for your time and attention. Thank you everybody who participated in pulling this all together. And I hope we never have to use it, but boy, if we do, I'm glad we've got a team in place to make it work.
So it seems like the questions are being answered in the chat room, but if there's any questions that anybody wants to address maybe to the group, you can go ahead and take yourself off speaker if you would like.
Hey, yeah, I'd just like to address one of the last questions that came up about responding in an emergency situation, the CERT teams in the COVID pandemic environment. And you know, we've been talking about this, and how do you respond to that during any infectious disease event? Because you certainly want to be able to respond as quickly, but keep everybody healthy. So, you know, in the current event, we're stocking up on gloves, we're stocking up on sanitizer, and we're writing some additional SOP, standard operating procedures, for social distancing and so forth, and how to set up a treatment area and whatnot. Now, we're addressing all of those issues, but it's a continuing challenge. And so if anybody would like to volunteer and help us write these things up, I'd love to talk to you.
Go ahead, Vic. Hi.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Am I on? Great. So first I want to thank Selena and everybody else, and also Ray, who I've not met, heard a lot about you, for putting this on and all the great work you're doing with these communities. I think it's fabulous, particularly given the limited number of people we have in this wonderful area that we live. So thank you for all of your efforts on this. It's really super terrific. I want to mention that on this call, I can see, or on this conference call, several people who have been through the training and who have set up community neighborhood preparedness committees. And I've made this call out to our committee here in Portola Valley, and I still have yet to have anybody pull us all together because I think we've all been busy with our other activities. But some of these committees, and I'll speak of our Golden Hills one just for a moment, have really gotten very far down the line. We have communication programs, we have area coordinators, we have evacuation plans. We have a whole bunch of stuff going on that I know there are things going on in Ladera. I understand they have a very good plan of some kind, Portola Valley Ranch, and so forth. And I don't think we have any kind of coordinating tie-in, at least that I'm aware of, that goes with our Portola Valley town per se, although a number of us, Mark Sinekin, who's on the call, who's been very active and contributed a lot here and been through the training program, CERT training program, have done on an ad hoc basis. So one, I just want to, again, thank you for all your effort. Two, alert you to the existence of these neighborhood committees, because some of them have some pretty sophisticated procedures in place, trying to align them with what we learned from you in sessions, good sessions like this. And the last plea that I would make is my nightmare is that these revised districts and all else that's going on are still working on evacuation plans. And that something's going to happen before we know what those evacuation plans are. And 4,000 people are going to get on 3 simple roads, all going to 280 or wherever they're going to go, going no place. And I know from having attended the meetings that a lot of this depends on where the fire is coming from. And it's very hard to have a fixed plan. And there are various ways of being mapped out. And I assume we'll get some direction on these communication vehicles. But I must tell you, as one resident that's had something of a leadership role in this, I am still mortified with this thought of all of us trying to figure out how to get out of here if it's a fast-moving fire. So with that, thank you for listening, and thank you for holding this session.
I'll address just the last comment that you had, Vic. First of all, yes, we do appreciate all the work that you've been doing and other areas. And you're absolutely right. There are a lot of very smaller organized areas. And that, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're much more of division leaders and neighborhood block captains and neighborhoods that we absolutely encourage to organize and communicate with each other. So in the grand scheme of things, they would end up communicating to the CERT teams to help make sure that then the CERT teams can have a broader picture of the whole area and respond appropriately and communicate to the town EOC. So we haven't forgotten about you, and we are aware you're doing plenty of work out there. As well, too, I want to say with these evacuation routes, we are not hiding anything. The routes are already out there. What is being worked on right now are standardized maps that can be kind of tweaked and can be accessible to people that will may be helping to respond, as well as us pushing out information immediately. So you already know all the routes. If you know there are only 3 roads, 3 ways out of your area, that's actually pretty good. I know a lot of areas that there's 1 way in and out. The fact is, you need to know what all of those routes are yourself. Make sure you're able to drive them, make sure your neighbors know, because we may not be able to communicate that there is a necessary evacuation. But if there is, you just need to know. And we will let you know if we have an evacuation order in place. That is how we will push it out via SMC alert. It'll go out on like almost a reverse 911 system. We have multiple ways to push out information. So the evacuation maps are there. The updates to them is we're working with a company, and I'm sure it's probably what you're asking about, the Zone Haven group, and we are still working with them to try to move forward with the mapping, but it is not going to be anything brand new. It's just a different way to look at the maps, and so that in an emergency, we're able to really focus this in an area and send messaging out to those people immediately to get them evacuated. But we can do that now as well. So there's no missing puzzle piece. It's just a matter of getting it a little bit more organized and pushing it out to our neighboring agencies as well.
Yeah, I just want to mention that as far as it's better to leave early than late. I just sat in on a webinar earlier today where some fire professionals were talking about, if you're leaving late, then you're going to be getting in the way of fire responders trying to get in. So please don't leave late.
Do we have any other residents that might want to ask a question? I saw Lori pose a question to the group. What role does San Mateo County Sheriff's Office play in an evacuation? I could share that, but I'm going to actually push it to Hector since he's our sergeant here. Thank you.
Well, it kind of goes with the last question. We would definitely assist in evacuations and road closures and, shutting down roads that are maybe impeding with the evacuation. But we would definitely be there to help with evacuations and road closures and to expedite people to get out as safely as possible. And obviously we're gonna let the fire trucks get in and do their job, but I think our primary role would be to help evacuate and keep traffic flowing, getting people out and getting the fire trucks in.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. If an order has been put into place, it's not just pushed out by the fire district or the sheriff's office or the town. It is a group effort to make sure that we're going to put an order out. And once we do, then the wheels start moving. Like our sergeant said, the San Mateo County sheriffs are in charge of actually helping to assist with the evacuations, because the fire personnel are the ones that are going to be responding. And so it's very important, again, that you get out early, because if we're telling you to go out one direction and you choose not to, you can be impeding our response from the fire engines, which is not good. Well, we can push a car with a fire engine. We don't want to have to, but we will.
Selena, there's a good question from Carol with regard to whose role is it to notify residents? Is it the sheriff or is it church?
Well, we, like I said, when we have an evacuation order, it's not just decided by one person. We would have, because it is a coordinated effort with the sheriff's department as well as the town EOC. Once we have established that we need to evacuate immediately, then we will push it out via SMC alert. That is our first way to push it out. And whether it is the chief's pushing it out, or the battalion chief, or if we have the dispatcher put it out, once it has been decided that we have to evacuate, and then we have all the verbiage correct on how we want you to evacuate. Because if we're going to say we need you to evacuate now, we're going to tell you what evacuation route to take. So it comes out through SMC alert, and it would be put out most likely by us, the fire district, once we've spoken and gotten basically a bigger idea of the picture. It is true, Carol, a lot of people don't bring their phones to bed, but and a lot of time, and you know, there are some areas where there is no cell phone reception, and so that's why it's important during during red flag days to be alert, to make sure that you maybe have neighbors and people check on you. You and your neighbors, you guys are there for each other, and you guys are also the eyes for us. So there are a lot of issues up here with communication. And so just doubling up, making sure maybe you have a NOAA radio. I'm sure, and Carol, I know you have layers and layers of backup up there, but you're right. There are lots of areas and that are still very vulnerable.
I'd like to add, SMC obviously is the best way to be alerted. We've had, you know, have you seen on news up and fires up north, and we've had to do it in smaller scales where we're going around, you know, on our PA systems advising people to leave or something like that. So we would definitely help in that way, but SMC alert is for sure the best way to get notified.
Yes, absolutely. And I think with the fires, we learned a lot about sirens, right? And the utilization of sirens during a potential fire and evacuation. And that's last ditch, you know, just trying to get everybody out immediately. Hopefully we can put out an order in advance to get people to be able to grab their go bags and go. Let's see.
Yeah, I would add to that, you know, just as thinking in terms of emergency preparedness, just a personal mental habit. If you hear a siren, if it sounds like something's happening, go get on your alerts. If in the middle of the night you hear someone blowing air horns, go turn on your radio. You can always go back to bed. And by the way, I mentioned the air horns because that's something we do here in Woodside Hills in our division. Is we have some air horns out in our Connex box, and on the way out, I'll be blasting the air horn, and everybody here knows if you hear an air horn, check for the alerts. At least if they've been reading the emails they get from me.
Very true.
Very good. So everybody's got a go bag, right? Yeah, okay, got a go bag, right? Everybody's gonna get a radio, right? Everybody's gonna go to CERT training, get trained up. There you go. Get tested. Everybody's gonna come to at least one APC meeting and meet the folks and hear how it happens. Okay, I think we have complete agreement, Selena. It's all good.
That sounds great.
Hey, if anybody needs a ride to the APC meeting in Woodside, I have to go. So just let me know. I'll pick you up.
Well, thanks everybody for coming Gary, I see you there. Appreciate you showing up tonight. And Doug, it's all sort of speaking on behalf of the Portola Valley people who I work closely with. I really appreciate it, and all you folks in general. So,
Yeah, you guys in Portola Valley are awesome, by the way. Thanks to the EPC out there and the town organization for being so behind this. You guys are rocking it, and I appreciate it.
And we appreciate all of you doing this. It's terrific support. It really is, including the San Mateo Police as well. Everybody's just been terrific to work with on this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you guys are fantastic. You guys, yeah. I could do a whole separate thing where I just tell you about how cool the sheriffs are.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Good.
Yeah.
We love to hear that. We love to hear that, especially nowadays. So thank you.
Yeah, you bet, man. All right.
Ciao.
Thank you, Ray. Your work on this has been really spectacular. We really all appreciate it.
Thanks, Jerry. Anything I can do to help? Everybody knows where to find me.